The movie opens as we observe a baby boy being born in West Philadelphia. His name is Elijah. Elijah is born with shattered arms and legs due to his extreme fragility. As he gets older, his classmates tease him and refer to him as Mr. Glass because of how fragile he is. He now owns a lucrative, expensive comic book art gallery that specializes in original illustrations of superheroes. At the nearby college stadium, David Dunn works as a security guard. His marriage is in trouble. In fact, Audrey Dunn, his wife, sleeps downstairs in their kids' room while David does so upstairs with their son. When David's train malfunctions and derails on the way home from a job interview in New York, everyone on board is killed except for David. Not even a scratch exists on him. David discovers a letter on his windshield during the memorial service for the accident victims. The card reads, "How many days of your life have you been sick?" And it comes from a store called Limited Edition. David inquires with his supervisor and wife, but neither can recall David ever being ill. David brings his son to Limited Edition where he meets Elijah. David hears Elijah's explanation of his theory. If Elijah was able to be born with fragile bones and a high threshold for injury, shouldn't the contrary also be true? Elijah has looked into every catastrophe in an effort to identify a lone survivor who is unharmed but has had no luck. David is the one he's finally found after years of searching. Although David finds it intriguing, he really just believes Elijah is crazy. David receives a call telling him that someone is attempting to get into the stadium and is looking for him. Elijah answers and begins to enlighten David about his views about comic books. Theories suggesting that regular guys are superheroes, possess superhuman abilities, etc. David runs into a man in line and orders the security guards at the end of the line to begin patting down customers. They observe as the man David ran into exits the queue after he notices that everyone is being searched. When Elijah inquires about it, David replies that he had an image of a specific type of handgun when he bumped into him. David returns to his job, but Elijah stays behind to follow the person he ran into. Elijah falls down a steep flight of stairs, breaking multiple bones in the process, but the last thing he remembers seeing before he dies is the man's revolver, precisely as David had described. Elijah was correct. David does possess a unique talent. David is exercising at home with his weights in the basement. When Elijah described David as a hero with a unique gift, his son accepted what he said. David continues to be skeptical. While David is asking his kid to take off some weight, the son secretly adds more weight. David lifts 250 pounds, which is a record for him. His son, however, continues to pile on weight till he has reached 350 pounds. David never realized how strong he has been all along. Audrey, David's wife, is Elijah's nurse and will be helping him with his leg rehab. When Elijah probes her about her relationship with David, she tells him that while they were together, David was a star football player who was involved in a car accident because of ice roads. David stopped playing football after that. Because of this, Sarah and David were married. She is aware that they would have become more distant had he continued to play. David receives word from his son's school that he has been harmed while he is back at work. His son had hoped that he had picked up some of David's superhuman qualities. He attempted to defend a victim of bullying but injured himself in the process. When the school nurse remembers David, it is apparent he went to the same school. In actuality, David is to blame for their stringent pool regulations. When David was a student there, it appears that he had been taunted close to the pool. He fell in and was allowed to drown in the pool. Despite being discovered near the pool's bottom, he managed to live. He is informed by Elijah that every superhero has a flaw. Water is David's kryptonite, the pool water as well as the ice road water. David's wife decides that since he survived the train accident, maybe they might try again with their marriage. He tells her on their date that he thought their marriage had ended when he stopped waking her up after a horrible dream. The following evening, David trespasses into the train station and looks at a few of the damaged trains. He starts thinking back to his own vehicle accident from years prior, and he recalls that he was completely unharmed. In fact, he had to pull Audrey from the burning car using his superhuman strength. He approaches Elijah and informs him that he is correct. The prophet has never been ill or hurt in any way. Elijah informs him that David's occupation in the security industry is not a coincidence. He must go to the places where people are and defend them. David is heading to Penn Station on a rainy day while wearing a hooded rain poncho. There are hundreds of people walking by. David sees visions of people doing horrible things whenever they run into him. One of them is a rapist, while the other is a jewel thief. But when the maintenance worker runs into him, David has a terrifying vision. The man enters a home and murders the owner, according to the vision. David follows the man as he leaves work while continuing to wear the poncho, which is starting to resemble a superhero's cape. The man lives in a lovely area and in a nice house. David enters the house covertly and discovers the dead homeowner there. He ascends and frees two sisters who are imprisoned in their bathroom. He enters a different room and discovers the mother restrained. David peers outside via the open window. He turns around to see the maintenance worker who pushed David out the window. David falls onto the winter-covered pool in the backyard. David becomes completely submerged with the cover as it suddenly begins to collapse beneath the weight of David. David is once more in danger of drowning, but the two sisters force a pole to him, where he clutches it and is saved. David goes back upstairs, wrestles with the man, and breaks his neck to kill him. David returns home in the following scene, hangs up his cape, poncho, and carries his sleeping wife upstairs to their bed. She asks him what's wrong when she awakens. He says, "I had a nasty dream." David passes his son the newspaper in the morning while eating breakfast and covers his son's lips with a finger to quiet him. According to the headline, a mysterious hero saved the two girls. The image is a depiction of what the girls saw by an artist. A superhero-like figure with a hood and cape is depicted. When the youngster looks up at his father, David simply nods and grins. David visits Elijah at his gallery, where Elijah is hosting a sizable crowd for a special exhibition. To talk about what had happened, he and David went to Elijah's back office. Since his accident, Elijah has been using a wheelchair. As they shake hands, he expresses his immense pride in David. Ironically, David had a vision of Elijah lighting a building on fire, another vision of Elijah causing a plane disaster, and finally a vision of Elijah leaving the driving compartment of David's train that crashed, just like Christopher Walken in Stephen King's The Dead Zone while shaking hands. David is appalled by what he sees as he looks about Elijah's workplace. Hundreds of tragedies from throughout the world are covered in newspaper clippings. All of these things were planned and orchestrated by Elijah, who only has himself to blame. Every wicked character needs a good foe, much like in comic books, and Elijah has at last found his. David retreats in terror as Elijah declares, looking more like Professor X of the X-Men in his wheelchair. "They refer to me as Mr. Glass." A message stating that David alerted the authorities and that Elijah is currently in a facility for the criminally ill shows just before the end credits. Subscribe to my channel and comment down below, "I've subscribed." Turn on notifications, leave a like to help the channel grow. Thanks for watching my video.